Everyone, we really appreciate that. I'm going to make a few other comments about a different subject and then take a couple questions. There's been a lot of talk with respect to the COVID positive test and things like that. And I think it's important to point out, since we did our Seniors First vaccination effort at the end of last year, beginning of this year, we've seen between a 70 and 75% reduction in mortality year over year compared to last summer's wave, as well as in the January peak. We've also seen almost 25,000 fully vaccinated people test positive. I think we had assumed that it would provide more sterilizing immunity. And so the positive tests, and people are like, well, why is this happening? I was vaccinated, it shouldn't happen. And all I can tell you is what the data we see and the hospitals we talk to all point that this is helping reduce dramatically mortality, particularly among our most vulnerable residents. You can still test positive. I think we're seeing that. But at the end of the day, really turning this in from something that was much more threatening to, say, a senior citizen to something that is more manageable. I mean, that's a huge, huge thing. I mean, we have a 90% reduction plus in mortality in long-term care facilities since we went into those at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So yes, there are positive tests among vaccinated. At the same time, the mortality and all the data is very, very clear. And so we think doing the Seniors First was the right thing to do. And we think the fact that even amidst a lot of positive tests, you still see much less mortality than we did year over year. That's important. So it may not mean you'll ever test positive, but I do think the severity has been lessened, and I think these hospitals would all say the same thing in terms of what they're seeing. In fact, they're seeing a much lower median age, and I think it's because so many of the elderly, we basically protected the vulnerable very quickly. 91% of seniors, according to CDC in Florida, have gotten at least one shot. If you look 50 and up, over 75% vaccinated, and then many have recovered from COVID. So you're looking at well over 80+% that have some form of protection. Also worth pointing out, a place like Miami-Dade, Jackson Hospital System, one of the largest in the country, their COVID positive patients are about half of what they were during last summer's wave right now, the census. Now we have other parts of Florida where it's exceeding what they had last summer, but I do think the fact that Miami went through a wave, I think you have a lot of population immunity. I do think you have good vaccination. That is just the reality that we're seeing here, and so I think that's a positive sign. So going forward, we're really looking at to me, the best indicator, I know the media fixates on cases, but the best indicator is the emergency room visits for COVID-like illness. And when you see that go up, you're going to see increase in prevalence and an increase in hospital admissions. When that levels off or goes down, all the other indicators follow that. And so we follow that very closely. It went up very sharply throughout most of July. Towards the end of last month, it started to stabilize. We've basically been plateau. So we're looking to see that roll over. And when that rolls over, I think you're going to see some of the other indicators roll over as well. But at the end of the day, having protected the vulnerable, having protected seniors, we do have the data that's saying this is reducing the potential severity of that. And so these things come. We have summer season for whatever reason in the Sun Belt and particularly Florida. We'll nose over and go. It will probably come back in the winter just like last year, not as much as the Northeast, but we'll see. But at the end of the day, I think ultimately the numbers speak for themselves in terms of the severity and the fact that we're down so much, both in nursing home and in the broader senior population. And so that's a really, really good thing.